Hello and welcome to Telesur English. I am Estefania Bravo and this is From the South. The United States Special Representative for Venezuela, Elliot Abrams, has admitted the financing of the Venezuelan opposition and failing of money towards media. Political leaders are denouncing the interventionism and are asking for an investigation.
Throughout the week, we witnessed a number of noteworthy events involving the press in Venezuela. We saw attacks and robberies by opposition lawmakers against journalists and aggression by other civilians against reporters. There are acts which are being investigated among the numerous incidents which took place between Sunday, January 5th and Tuesday, January 7th, unrelated to the National Assembly vote, which took place to elect a new presidency to the legislative body.
They justify the aggression against reporters because they don't agree with their politics. No journalist, no communicator has to agree with any politics. A journalist's job is to inform. We condemn any attempt to label real journalists as political propagandists.
A number of Twitter accounts were blocked, among them government institutions and political leaders, and all on the same week in which the United States government confessed that it finances the Venezuelan opposition and what they call free press.
But we have done an agreement with the legitimate government of Venezuela, a development agreement, and we are able to do things to help, for example, the free press in Venezuela, to help people keep publishing and to keep broadcasting. We have some funds that we can use for the National Assembly. So there are a variety of things. This is all being done through, or not all, mostly being done through AID, but also the Democracy and Human Rights Bureau here at State.
The National Constituent Assembly will be requesting an investigation into those media outlets.
It's obviously not only a violation to our laws, but it's also an interference in Venezuelan affairs. It's a disrespectful way to influence in the public opinion, especially in the international opinion.
Independent of the editorial lines of these outlets, experts point to an absence of ethical standards among much of the Venezuelan media.
United States has financed them the whole time, including in these newspapers. People were paid by the United States to set positions and establish media trends. New journalists are being trained by communication schools, where ethics don't work, don't matter, and don't exist.
The battle for truth in Venezuela is a daily one, and the media is at the forefront of the battle.
Voices of solidarity across the continent have poured out in support of Telesur in reaction to the threats made by opposition figure Juan Guaidó against the network.
Telesur has been trending on Twitter. Among the solidarity shoutouts was Cuban President Miguel Diaz-Canel, who tweeted his energetic rejection of the threats against the voice of the peoples who fight and resist the empire from our America and the world. The legitimate president of Bolivia, Evo Morales, also took to Twitter saying that the coup-mongering Venezuelans are now announcing the theft of the Telesur signal, the voice of the humble Latin American and Caribbean people. He said that they want to impose just one voice throughout the world which speaks only for them and want to do away with the memory of struggle and history. They won't be able to. From Venezuela, the president of the National Constituent Assembly, Diosdado Cabello, said that the creation of Telesur has been made into the obligatory reference of informative balance of what takes place in the Americas. Those who have never built anything today want to destroy but have not been able to and can't what the great Hugo Chavez founded. Venceremos, he says. Argentine writer, reporter, and analyst Marco Teruggi says, why attack Telesur? Because Telesur covered the uprising in Ecuador, the coup in Bolivia, the mobilizations in Chile and Colombia, and the attempts to overthrow the government in Venezuela. Telesur hurts the right and the United States. And from El Salvador, FMLN lawmaker Nidia Diaz says, quote, we're in solidarity with Telesur TV before the slander and onslaught of the continental right, particularly by the imperial instrument, which is Juan Guaidó. She said that Telesur has been characterized by its exercise of professional journalism committed to democratic and humanist causes in Latin America and the world. The FMLN lawmaker went on to say that the channel has worked to denounce lies and injustices and to promote peace and respect for human rights. And finally, the president of this multi-platform network Patricia Villegas says that Telesur will continue with its work worthy of broad recognition worldwide. Viva Telesur!
The government of Colombia is facing a new scandal over alleged wiretapping of political opponents. According to local media, judges, lawmakers, journalists, and others were wiretapped by a group directed by the former general of the army, Nicasio Martinez. One of the affected officials is the mayor of Cali, Jorge Ivan Ospina, who revealed that he found hidden microphones in his office. General Martinez last month retired from his position due to what he called family reasons. And the Special Representative for Freedom of Expression of the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights expressed his solidarity with journalists and mass media in Colombia who were targeted by wiretaps and also demanded an investigation. Haitians paid tribute this weekend to the hundreds of thousands who died in the 2010 earthquake. Haiti's President Jovenel Moïse and other officials attended the memorial for the victims on the outskirts of Port-au-Prince. In January 12, 2010, a magnitude 7 quake hit the nation, killing more than 200,000 people. The country continues to face failed reconstruction efforts and political instability.
Well, I have to say that the past 10 years have been the toughest years for Haiti, politically, economically, and I think a lot of people have a sense of loss of hope because they feel like we have lost the attention of so many. The international community is no longer having Haiti on their radar.
Trinidad and Tobago's Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley is boasting of his government's support of social services. He was speaking in an interview ahead of general elections expected by November 2020.
The one area that we have been very good on is that we've maintained the social services program, and we have spent every year approximately $5 billion in that sort of thing, from pensions all the way down to household food card grants and benefits to households for orphans, looking after geriatrics in their home with home care and so on. And we've maintained a health system which, while not being perfect, we've provided it with the resources of personnel, medication, physical environments so that healthcare can be delivered. Those are the priorities that we are focusing on, ensuring that the population still can hold on to that.
The Prime Minister is urging the public not to judge his administration on the out-of-control murder rate alone. Runaway crime has been one of the failings that have tarnished the ruling's People's National Movement administration, with more than 2,000 citizens killed since they assumed office in 2015.
It would not be fair to the government to be measured by this situation, which didn't arise overnight and is not a feature of this administration. It's not a feature of Trinidad and Tobago. Crime and criminality as a responsibility of the government of Trinidad and Tobago, governments of the Caribbean, and I dare say wider field, is going to remain a major focus. And while we would not have eliminated
Welcome back. Isabel dos Santos, the daughter of a former Angolan president, has defended herself of alleged corruption charges. Speaking to the media, dos Santos denied all charges leveled against her and claimed the current government is persecuting the former president's family. Most of the charges leveled against dos Santos are based on the mishandling of state-run companies. Recently, the Angolan government froze some of her assets and bank accounts.
Well, the allegations are false. Unfortunately, we were not given the opportunity to present our evidence or to defend ourselves. We were not aware of any such proceedings. We were not summoned. We never received any notices. I've never received a summons. My directors never received any summons or notices. So these proceedings were very much held in secrecy. We don't know exactly what are the accusations, but from what we've heard so far, we can say that the allegations are false allegations.
South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa has held bilateral talks with visiting Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed Ali. Ahmed Ali won last year's Nobel Peace Prize for initiating political reforms in his country. He is in South Africa on a two-day official visit. The talks focus on boosting ties between the two countries, as well as enhancing the role of the African Union.
We must find African solutions to African problems. The peace that has to prevail in Libya must be a peace that is grounded in African soil. It must be pursued and led by the African Union.
We need election because there is challenge and we want to confront it in a very democratic way so as to have a legitimate government. So there are lots of excuses for this, but in my opinion, it's better for Ethiopians and for Ethiopian parties to conduct the election on time in a very peaceful and democratic manner.
Meanwhile, Ahmed has responded to U.S. President Donald Trump's suggestion that he was a more deserving recipient of the Nobel Prize. Ahmed said if Trump has any complaints about this election, he should take them to Norway and not to Ethiopia.
To be honest, I don't have any clue about the criteria, how the Nobel Committee select an individual for the prize. So the issue of President Trump must go to the Nobel Prize Committee. I'm aware how they elect or select someone to provide the prize. And I'm not working for the prize. I'm working that peace is a very critical thing for our region. And if they recognize, and if President Trump complained, it must go to Oslo, not to Ethiopia.
The damage caused by climate change is often exacerbated by abuses and violation on farmers' rights. In Kenya, where an economic model based on oil drilling has led to floodings and droughts, farmers are forced to migrate in search of a better life.
Over the last few years, two transnational companies have been exploring Kenya's Rift Valley in search of oil. Recently, they held a celebration, as many believe they'd found what they were looking for. Isaiah Biwot, born in this village, is a volunteer in an organization that represents the community's demands. They're condemning the World Bank for financing this oil exploration. The community's resilience depends on agriculture, including cattle and goat breeding. Nevertheless, each year, young people leave the village in search of an easier life.
The young men are more interested in planting season starts from April and ends at August. But this year, we had no rains from April, May, but we received a very short rain in June, late June and July. So, but our harvest was very little. In 1 acre, expectation, people would expect to get something like about 25 bucks by one acre. But this year, the first person maybe say the harvest a lot was 5, 6 in 1 acre. So it was very poor.
No.
The heavy machinery of Tulox oil passed through here. Without any warning or request for permission, they ran over the community's crops, causing damage that hasn't even been paid for.
Total money they paid me is 8,000. Rains are not predictable. So during the year that we don't have any rain, the mango starts the best, and it will help people economically to get money. Because one mango fruit, you can sell at 20 shillings, but the list is 15 shillings. But one mango can hold up to 1,500 seedlings times the number of the trees you have.
The invasion by the transnational's heavy machinery damaged the land in this delicate ecosystem.
These trucks they were very heavy. So they go, when they enter inside there, they felt the trucks will sink. So they come back. They use it now here. So the caterpillar, the creator now went through here. So you see, when you see this side and the other place, it is raised, but here it is the question.
So, even seeing the rocks.
Yeah. So this is now the rocks. Those people, there is a lot of rocks.
Never removed it.
It was a flattery. It was balanced. So when you see here, when you stand here, this like an hill.
This land, when it's not raining, it's not productive anymore like before. And even this type of tree grows where there is the water table is high. Now that the water table has gone down because of the crack, the gully, it will start drying up.
According to the community, the explosions carried out by Tullow Oil during their exploration caused a huge crack that lowered the level of the river.
Seismic survey, we started witnessing this now. The issue of food security is now a problem.
Wetlands are going to disappear.
Somewhere here. And then after that, the use of this very high explosive during the seismic surveys, the crack started developing because it developed along that line up to the other side. But the lower side, which there was no seismic survey done, is intact. It was tallow actually.
Family crops now depend on unpredictable rains to produce some food. The community's complaint against the World Bank is based on violations by the same company. Communities have not only gotten no benefits from the oil exploration of their land, they weren't even asked before it was done. What's more, their livelihoods are in danger from climate change. Climate uncertainty comes on top of the legal insecurity they face because the government hasn't given them
Welcome back. Leaders of the warring sides in Libya have vowed to observe a ceasefire after 9 months of heavy fighting. The announcement was made during a summit in Moscow attended by the head of Libya's Government of National Accord, FtS al-Sarraj, and by General Khalifa Haftar, who leads the opposing Libyan National Army. Their meeting was mediated by government officials from Russia and Turkey. According to Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, the deal itself has not yet been signed by everyone, as General Haftar asked for some time to think over the agreement. The draft document suggests that all parties would stop military actions and observe the ceasefire conditions. Earlier, the president of Turkey expressed the optimism for the agreement to be reached.
Right now we are working to establish a ceasefire on the basis of an agreement. Our delegates continue to talks with the participation of all sides. I hope that a ceasefire agreement will be signed soon within this framework. Meetings in Moscow continue. I believe that these meetings will end in the evening, but I got information from my colleagues that the talks continue in a positive direction.
Robert Abila has been chosen as Malta's new prime minister. He will automatically assume the role after being elected leader of the Labour Party. Abila is replacing former Prime Minister Joseph Muscat, who stepped down due to growing criticism over his handling of a probe into the murder of an investigative journalist.
I would also like to thank my friend Chris, with who, in the last few months, I have worked so much together. I thank him for his candidacy, and I look forward to continue to work together for the good of this party and for the good of the country.
A new attack on a military base in Iraq wounded 4 people. On Sunday, several rockets hit the Al-Balad air base in the Salah al-Din province. The Iraqi armed forces said 4 of its members were wounded when 8 Katyusha rockets hit the base. The attack comes just days after Iran's Revolutionary Guard fired 22 missiles at 2 Iraqi military bases that host U.S. troops. The Iranian attack was carried out a few days after the U.S. military assassinated Iranian General Qasem Soleimani. Heavy rains and flooding in southern Iran has killed 1 person, destroyed houses, and blocked road links to more than 500 villages, Iranian media said on Monday. The rain, which began on Friday, has caused heavy flooding across several cities and villages. 1 person was confirmed dead, 1 missing, and several others sustained, according to the head of the country's rescue and relief organization. Local media has said provinces affected were Kerman, Hormozgan, Sistan, and Baluchistan. Around 1,250 people were rescued in Sistan. Iran's Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif tweeted that there is significant human and material cost and said that the focus will be on restoring livelihoods as search and rescue efforts continue. The minister said thoughts and prayers are with the affected Iranians. The Trump administration has threatened Iraq with freezing one of its most important bank accounts if Baghdad expels U.S. troops from the region. Shutting down Iraq's account at the Federal Reserve Bank of New York could severely damage the country's financial system, as Iraq puts its revenue from oil sales there. This comes after the Iraqi parliament voted earlier this month to oust about 5,300 U.S. troops from the region after Washington ordered the assassination of Soleimani. The NGO ships have rescued 237 migrants in the central Mediterranean Sea. The Open Arms and Sea Watch rescue ships respectively saved 118 and 119 migrants, including pregnant women and infants. The NGOs highlighted that the harsh conditions made migrants have to sleep outdoors despite the cold and incessant rain in the last hours before they were found by them. According to the UN Refugees Office, over 1,000 migrants lost their lives in the Mediterranean in 2018 alone, as many are forced to flee their homes due to war, persecution, or poverty. Protests against the French government's pension reform plan have now entered day 40. Commuters and travelers in Paris continue facing challenges as the transport system is paralyzed. This strike came after France had already been rocketed by protests against economic policies by Yellow Vest activists since October of 2018. Rio de Janeiro's flagged carnival, one of the world's biggest and most lively parties, was launched on Sunday with a traditional symbolic passing of a key to the city festival leader, King Momo. The carnival season kicked off earlier this year as the reveille begins from January 12th with a show on the sands of Copacabana. The festivities will end on March 1st. Rio's mayor, Marcelo Crivella, said the city expects about 1.9 million people to attend. The Rio Parade is typically filled with revelers, feature floats, and dancers from numerous samba schools. And with that, we've come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And join us on social media. We are on Facebook, on Twitter, and